channel, The Grimm Reader, and this is my weekly reading update for the last week, which will be 9/20/22, because we're in week 10. So I finished my long fantasy novel that I was listening to, which to me, the things that I listen to are, well, I've listened to a lot of really good books that I do kind of just count as my reading. So in a way it is sort of reading, although I kind of accept that that it isn't quite the same experience. But nevertheless, I did enjoy this a lot. A lot of things happen, a lot of terrible things happen. There's a lot of fantasy type gore and negativity. There's a darkness to the world, I guess, but it's as if, because it's not our world where the darkness can be kind of overwhelming, don't we know? It's bearable, for me at least. It's almost, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's part of why I like the book, but I don't know. It's definitely not jolly. And maybe is part of why I like it. And it's well written. And as I remember one comment from my viewer last week about having to stage an intervention because I thought I might want to read Karl May. What was I thinking? But see, that's the whole point, is that I had the kind of idea that it could be sort of good enough to overlook its formulaic aspects and fall into the plot aspects. And of course, Karl May is just not like that. It's always in your face as to how dated and condescending and patronizing it is, whereas this is not like that at all, for me at least. I mean, I can just fall into it. I mean, I think the style, he's a good writer. He's a very good writer, and I mean, the complexity of this world is sometimes kind of chuckle-worthy. We have these weird discussions, my husband and I, about plot aspects, where I go and ask him, so what about the thingamajig and the so-and-so and the things that kind of look like dinosaurs, but they're not really dinosaurs, they're more like dragons, and what happened? I mean, these very strange conversations where I'm trying to sort of, or a lot of people, if you're just listening to it, seem to have names with the same starting letter, so K person, this K person, and that K person, and yeah, so I'm trying to think about how to explain some of the aspects that I really liked, especially in this one. So I think I've mentioned how this world has these things called warrens that are sort of space-time continuum abnormalities, where if you are a mage of a sort, you can open these warrens and travel. Basically, and I have to pay better attention. Is it time travel, or is it just travel, like space, like over distance? Well, it's different realms. It's sort of like beyond both of those in a certain sense. And I really think that's kind of an interesting aspect of this world. And in this book, and don't ask for specifics, something happens to the warrens. Someone who has power does something, infects the warrens. There's a lot of warren stuff in this one that's kind of interesting. Apologies for noises in the back as my husband is getting dinner ready. I am so lucky. But anyway, so that's one aspect I like about this one. And one thing that's just sort of interesting, but also kind of we make fun of it in this world, is how when people are killed or die, they oftentimes are reincarnated in really kind of complicated, weird ways. So the finality of death is just not there in this world, and it's cool. I mean, it makes him able to do interesting thing with characters. Like this is one character, main character in this here. She's this reincarnated person, but she has three people in her now. And then there's interesting connections to the person that helped sort of give birth to her again. This new person, her name is Silver Fox, kind of in a way gets her life energy from this woman who's sort of her mother, but not really. And then part of the sad sort of aspect of the novel is this mother figure getting more and more weak, and kind of, she takes a long time, but she basically sort of dies, but doesn't really die, as I said before. So yeah, lots of cool stuff happening. It is dark. There's a lot of darkness here, but I have to say that's probably part of, I mean, it's weird to say that's part of its charm, but I think you know, I'm not one for the jollies, you know, I am the grim reader. And I think that is, I mean, it's not, it's as if even though there's a lot of violence and darkness and even, you know, sort of there's cannibalistic things going on here. And also one person has a really hard time. But then he comes back and he's all kind of almost normal at the end after all this terribleness that he had to go through. Poor Tuck. So what was I saying? About the darkness. Yeah, I've lost my train of thought about the darkness. No, because it's a fantasy world, because it's sort of, it's not our world, it's not anywhere. It is this, there is an escapist aspect to it too that is enjoyable, especially if you're listening to it. And I was sort of, as I was deciding what to listen to next and sort of foreseeing that I, you know, let's cross our fingers, we'll be going to Germany this summer to teach my class, my little group of students over there. We go with them and take them there and then teach them there. I thought, well, this would be the perfect thing to just kind of fall into when I'm too tired to actually read a book, because I get really tired when I'm there and working hard. And just on the commute to where I teach, I can listen to this book on the bus while I look at the German landscape. So it will be sort of a constant that is nice in my life, and I like those. And yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with everything in the world, but you know, we have to keep going. So yeah, I finished it. Yeah, I was glad, because it was so funny, because the last chapter was 4 hours long. It's just one chapter. It should have been more than one chapter probably, but yeah. Anyway, that's that. And so Miss MacIntosh is still there on my shelf, and it has kind of stalled, but I'm not giving up. I'm just going to read it when I have time. I didn't get to start the Reemsma, which I'm not sure when I'll start that one about the guy who was kidnapped. And I really do wish I had finished more of The Letter Left to Me, by McElroy. I say McElroy, I don't know if that's right. It's really good, and I want to finish it. I'm only about halfway through. I mean, I'm taking it slow because I'm busy. In terms of the class, let me go to that. The reason why I'm busy. Where are we with fairy tales right now? We're in the dysfunctional family section, which is Hansel and Gretel, Little Thumbling by Perrault, an Italian fairy tale by Basile, Nanillo Ninella, which is sort of another brother and sister type tale. And also I assign a chapter from a book about the Brothers Grimm, so we do a kind of biographical, because, you know, it's the family rubric. So, and they were, you know, a very interesting family in Germany in the 19th century. And so that's going fine. It's just keeping me busy. And so what happened was I was reminded on Twitter, and it's kind of funny how Twitter has been kind of in my reading, has structured my reading. There's specifically one person on there who, she's in charge of all these read-alongs on Twitter. She arranges them, she asks people to do them, and we all do them. And as I said before, the difference between a Twitter read-along and anything more like a buddy read is that it's very, you know, that's where I did Finnegan's Wake, and then I just said, look, I can't do it anymore, and that was fine. You just kind of, you drop in and you drop out as you want, and then you can follow it as in terms of hashtags to see what people have posted about it. So it's sort of like a community, but it's a very no strings attached type of community, and so, which is nice for me. And so she reminded me that we had kind of agreed to read the other Marguerite Young, because I had a copy of it, this one, An Angel in the Forest. And when I read it, I actually take off this beautiful cover. This is the second edition. This is not a first edition as I thought it was, but it's the second edition with the introduction, which I haven't read, by Mark Van Doren. And so I decided to hop on board because, you know, I have all the time in the world, don't I? And we're reading 10 pages a day, which so far I'm able to do. And so, because this is different from Miss MacIntosh, it was written about 20 years earlier, so 1945 was published, so it was written in the 40s, which is interesting. So it's, you know, I always think during the war, but it's a wonderful book. She is a really fantastic writer. And one thing I do kind of like about it is that she's from Indiana. And so born in Indiana, attended Indiana and Butler universities, and then went to U of C to get her, University of Chicago to get her master's degree. And then also had connections to Iowa, the Iowa workshop, I think, Iowa writing, University of Iowa graduate work. So this is all about, and if you're from Indiana, you know about New Harmony. Oh, you've at least heard of New Harmony. And I have a sort of, if I had done research, it's another one of these paths I could have followed in terms of doing research. I've always been sort of interested in fringe religious sects to do with Protestantism. For example, back in the day when I was still trying to do the academic thing in terms of writing, I went and learned how to read German script, which is very different from normal German handwriting. It's an actually different alphabet. And it was, the workshop was at Moravian College in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, because that's where the Moravians were. And the reason that they did a workshop on script was that the Moravians as a sect, part of their whole thing was conversion narratives. And they were, and so the Moravian archives have all these German in the script archives of these conversion narratives. And so the wonderful librarian there, he was very funny. He was Dutch, and we would sit around this big table, and he started us off with learning the alphabet and then reading these scripts, and we would have to go around and sort of decipher in front of him out loud. And I did have an advantage because my German was good, but I had a lot of respect for the people who were there for genealogical reasons, whose German wasn't as good, but they were still kind of soldiering through to read these difficult texts. And he kind of started us out with clear ones, and then we got to really sort of scribbly ones, which were really hard to decipher. And we always had a lot of homework deciphering these script texts. And so the Moravians was something I thought I might do work on, but I never really was able to. I was interested in them, but I never got a good topic going. They were very strange, and I did review a book about them, and they were into the side wounds of Jesus, and had interesting marriage stuff around marriage customs, how they would, I think they would like, it was like a lottery almost, and they lived separately, which brings me to New Harmony, which was later. So New Harmony was a town of two utopian communities. The first one being a German who came from Germany from Württemberg. So I guess sort of like, is it Bavaria or is it Swabia now? Father Georg Rapp. He was sort of a mystic, and he had his following of Rappites, as she calls them, Rappites. And the weird thing about this sect, and it's kind of connected, it reminds us of the Shakers, is that they were celibate. He wanted them to be kind of angelic in the sense of not engaging in reproduction, which is going to be, it's kind of a bad thing for your sect if you have no incoming into it that way. What you gonna do? And but they had a pretty successful time of it, and then they were there in New Harmony, which is a little tiny town near Evansville, so at the bottom of Indiana, on the river, on the Ohio River. And then at some point they sell their town to another person who I have to get to where she talks about him. I do know a little bit about Robert Owen, and he was a sort of early socialist person from Scotland, I think, England, Scotland, and he comes and does the same thing with his utopian community, sort of the same thing yet very different. And so I actually did buy a book that I don't have ready to show you called The Angel and the Serpent, and it's a more traditional telling of what happened at New Harmony, but I never read that. And so it's so funny how this is a nonfiction book, but it's almost like you wouldn't be able to tell because of her style. Her style is just so beautiful and poetic and insightful and funny and intelligent and moving. She just has such a way with words. She's a brilliant writer. And the thing is, you still learn about what's going on, but it's almost like in a poetic way. It's not just facts. I don't really like normal nonfiction, which is probably why I didn't read the other book. But with this one, it's almost like, it's like reading Miss MacIntosh, but it's easier. It's at that level of wonderfulness. And plus she's writing about a topic that is of interest to me, which is New Harmony and these people. And she's sort of very, she's a nice, her approach to these strange folk is very empathic almost, I would say. Like she really is trying to understand them. And she's a little bit sort of funny, or like makes fun of them in a mild, friendly type of way, I would say, because, you know, she does sort of hone in on the fact that the celibacy was hard for them. I mean, it's one of the main reasons that they probably didn't. Oh, and it's just, and one thing that's just has happened is that this charlatan came in that I just found out about and was looking up on Wikipedia, the Count, who comes in and lures a bunch of them away from the original group. And of course they just are, he's just a pure scam artist, con man, him and his secretary. And I can't believe that they even gave him the time of day, but I think it's a sign of how, in a certain sense, cat incoming, Freddie Rapp was sort of a little bit naive. And there's a whole story about how his actual son did have a child, I think, and then dies or something, and then he kind of adopts another person as his son, because, you know, if you're not going to have any children, sorry, Lily's right here. Anyway, but it's fantastic, and so far 10 pages a day is okay. I mean, I do have to sort of, it's the sweet spot between holding me accountable and not stressing me out so far. So like today I have to read 3 more pages to be done for today. Oh no, actually I need more than that, because it's already the 8th and I'm on, no, we read up to 80 for the 8th, and I'll read up to 90 for the 9th. So yeah, just a couple more pages and I'll have today's done. And if I fall behind, it doesn't really matter that much. There are not very many people doing this Twitter read along, because she's still kind of, you know, obscure, and not many people know. Not that many people have this book even. I think there's only 3 of us reading it together on the Twitter, but I don't think that really matters. And I'm sure other people kind of maybe are following along anyway, even if they're not reading it. But it's delightful, and she's the find of the year for me, and maybe of a lifetime. Very special person. So yeah, and I think, oh Lily, she's being silly. What are you doing? Want to say hi? You want to say hi? You want to say hi? She probably wants food. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, any other updates in terms of my reading. Well, the main thing is I really need to finish the other one, which isn't even a very long book, and I've been taking my sweet time. But you all know why by now. And yeah, the news from the world is not good, and it's very sad, and yeah, but we have to soldier on. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today, and I will talk to you all very soon. Let me know if you know anything about New Harmony and utopian communities. At some point they moved from New Harmony to a new Harmony that they then I think called Economy Pennsylvania. So they're also in Pennsylvania. So yeah, anyway, I will talk to you very soon, and thank you all for watching. I'm happy to have reached the milestone of 500 subscribers, which is very nice. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.